Hey everyone, so we are back live at our channel at Coaching Genius Lives. Today, on our favorite episode on Jedi's Omakase, we're going to talk about anything about life, right? Or maybe, actually, there's a specific area I want to talk about and I'll share with you guys as well. And I just came across this amazing book. I was just reading it, and I want to talk to us a little bit more about that book and also some of the learnings I've gained. And while doing that, let's have some coffee, right? Because it's coffee brewing time, and I love this idea of us coming together, having a cup of coffee, sharing, discussing, and just really ruminating about life and what life is to us. And hopefully, this video inspires some of us out there and really gives us a sense of what life is really about. Life is definitely much more than this. In fact, I have my upcoming program known as Brave Your Story. That is my personal coaching program where I take individuals, leaders, business owners on this journey of self-discovery, finding a greater sense of self. So before we start there, let's dive into our coffee brewing time. Today we're going to look at my favorite Colombian coffee beans, and we're going to explore a little bit of that fanciful and amazing aromatic notes. Let's take a look. I want to say about today's coffee is that it's really nice. It's suggested temperature is about 88 to 90 degrees, and the very first one is 16. So this is about 22 grams of coffee beans, roasted, fresh. So we have a lot of coffee rest in it. Some people have feel it. And I love the texture because one of the great things about doing it a little bit more manually is that you can experience each step of the way. And I think that's so important. I can feel it almost done. How do you know when it's almost done? When it's like almost really smooth. See, like now there's no sound. It means we're done. Right. So if I take it out, wow, just check that out. It's amazing smell. You don't want to miss this out. So this is really good. Now, then of course, what we want to do is to really take it out from the canister and just to get it all ready. Okay. So there we go. Let's take this out. There you go. Fresh grated coffee, and let's take a smell. It's really good. The smell is good. It's fresh. We get all that in. Yeah, and I'm going to keep things neat and tidy. So there we go. Okay, so this is about 22.8, 22.8 grams. We're just gonna pour using my barista. We're gonna start right from the middle, get every single drop of coffee really soaking with that fresh hot water. Now, allowing it to bloom first. Notice the blooming happen. Very nice. So the bloom is happening there, and we're letting it to simmer a little bit more. Always start from the middle, allowing that flavor to just rise. Wow. Love it. You can begin to smell that nice aromatic scent of the coffee just really coming through. And just I'm gonna pour a little more, just reaching to the edge. Yeah. Really, really nice. You can really see that. Wow. There's just something about coffee and the way you take time to kind of brew it. It's just brilliant. I love this barista handle. It really gets really interesting when you can see it. And you can kind of like slowly pour it and really getting all the greatness within it. Yeah. So let it simmer, let it just really bloom and let it breathe. Now, one of the things that I love about this is that we are going to be trying out today's Colombia roasted beans, and it's black color, tasting notes, wheat, and a little bit of dark chocolate flavor. So it's going to taste really, really good. So we'll try that. I'm really excited to try today's coffee. Okay, we're almost there for today. Now, how many of you enjoy a cup of coffee to start the day, just refresh the day? Sometimes during the course of the day, you might be tired, you might have a lot of things on the plate, a lot of different demands of work. So the great thing to really get going is to get all the flavors and the richness to really come forth in all this. Really, really, really brilliant. Really, really enjoying all this. Yeah, and let's take a look at this. Very nice. Okay, great. Okay, so we are back, and check this out, a nice warm cup of coffee, freshly brewed. Now this one here has a little notes of raspberry, a little notes of that dark chocolate flavor, a little bit of syrupy flavor as well, and I think it's gonna taste really good. I remember my time when I was there in Colombia. I was there at Medellin, and it was just amazing. I remember taking the flight. It took me almost 2 days to arrive in Colombia. I was taking a flight from Singapore, and I was transiting, I think, somewhere in Zurich, and I came down to Panama, then I came down from Panama. I took a flight down to Medellin. Well, at Medellin, I tell you, the airport was just incredible. It just reminds me of the Malaysian airport where I took at I can't remember which particular airport. It was a smaller airport, but it was I was taking a fly from Singapore over there, meeting my friends in Malaysia. So I was there in Colombia, and it was the first thing that I noticed was I was kind of like out of place because you hardly see Asian people in Colombia. Right, most of my friends there are Spanish people, and the Colombians there, and they speak Spanish. So when I was there, the security guard was asking me, "Okay, where are you from? What are you here for?" Right, because a strange species appeared out of nowhere. Right, so thankfully I got my friend Gloria, who was waiting outside the airport for me, and she brought me around. And it was my first experience in Colombia. Really, I would never, I would always want to go back there because it's such an amazing experience. And that is something that I want all of you to also experience if you get a chance to go to Colombia. Now, I've just brewed this amazing coffee here, Colombian coffee, really nice. So let's take a look, let's smell it. The first thing that comes, which is different from our episode number 1, where I had the which coffee was that I had? Let me just take a look. Oh, I had the Papua New Guinea coffee. So now today we're gonna have a try the Colombian coffee. So the first thing that I can straight away smell, which is a distinct smell. It's kind of different from the Papua New Guinea flavors of coffee. This one has a little bit more bitter note, a little bit sharper in that sense, in the olfactory sense, and you could really, there's a real intense smell that's just rushing through, right? Not as floral as the Papua New Guinea one, but let's have a taste. Definitely a little bit more acidity in this one, and the flavor is acidy, but it's not the thick, not really thick, which sometimes it gets a little bit clouded. But here I can really taste the different distinct notes. The first taste that comes in, there's a rush of acidity that comes in, but right after that, you can taste a little sweetness. And the aftertaste of a little of the, I think on the description was kind of a red winey flavor, and you can really taste that little grapey flavor towards the end. So it was really a great experience. This one, it has really nice notes at the end of the grapes as well. Really wonderful. Now we also taste a little bit of that chocolate flavor as well, really nice. But the chocolate is more of a bitter chocolate flavor than that sweet chocolate that we taste in milk chocolate. So it's really more on that bitter chocolate that we are tasting in that note there. Okay, so that's really nice. Really good. Now, so coffee. Give me also. Okay, you make nails. I think we're coming now. Nails up to that. Okay. Huh? You play the Go Beats first. Okay, then you play other games first. You read a book first. Go. You will choose first. Later, come up. So now let's try a second sip here, and let's see whether what taste are we getting here. Definitely a very distinct taste that's a little bit different from the one that we had earlier. The one that we had earlier was the Papua New Guinea one. This one definitely has a stronger acidity, a little bit more of that intense notes. Now, it's kind of different from the ones I've tried in Colombia. I remember I was at District 13, and the taste was just incredible. Maybe it's because of the place that one thing that makes coffee different is to try it in its locality. In fact, one of the things I wanted to do was to bring people who are interested to join me on a live coaching experience, where we travel around different parts of the world and we'll little retreats, live retreats. I call them little live retreats, where we really do some self-discovery, find some alignment, centering ourselves, and really enjoying and savoring every single moment. I think too often in this age, we are running and rushing from one place to the next, and we just get so caught up in the hustle and bustle of life, but never really quite taking time to just pause, think, enjoy that every single moment. So I think that is something really good. So if you like to be part of this journey, of course there is a particular fee to it, because we need to cover the expenses and costs. Let me know. It's going to be a private tour journey where you just follow Jedi on a little escapade around the world. I remember one thing that we wanted to do was to go to Antarctica. So I have not forgotten that yet, and we will probably do that. Hopefully once the pandemic is over, we will do something about that. Yeah, so now this episode, Jedi's Omakase, it's what is fresh on my heart, what's fresh on my mind today. So that's something that we will come and share with all of us. And while we're having a little cup of the coffee and enjoying that and savoring the moment, I think what better way to start than flipping through my Kindle. So recently, I got this new book on Kindle. It's called Noise, right? Noise, A Flaw in Human Judgment by Daniel Kahneman, the author of Thinking Fast and Slow. So, well, one thing that really caught my attention in this book was the title itself, right? Noise, A Flaw in Human Judgment. So when I think about that, I think about us having decision making every single day. There is always a flaws in human judgment. Whatever decision we make, we will never make perfect decisions, right? There will be noise that comes in, but are we aware of this noise? And I think the pursuit really is to be more and more aware of the noise that just comes into our entire ecology. I think even as coaches, and leaders, as speakers, as influencers, when we think about that, many people think, okay, is it just me? Is it just others? Why can't I listen carefully? Why am I not able to be like that person who's so charismatic? Why am I not getting that views done? Blah, blah, blah. So all this are like cluttering our life, It's so one thing I just really enjoy is that, hey, what if we could have a little more in-depth look into what these noise are and how those noise affect us? So let me just read to all of us. For one of my favorites about this, it's what we call judgments and models. I love this part here. So I'm going to read to you a little part of that of the book, and then let's have a little discussion, and we'll enjoy the coffee at the same time. All right. This is taken from chapter 9, Judgment and Models, and let me just read to all of us here. It says this: many people are interested in forecasting people's future performance on the job, their own and that of others. The forecasting of performance is therefore a useful example of predictive professional judgment. Now consider, for instance, two executives in a large company. Monica and Natalie were assessed by a specialized consulting firm where, when they were hired, and received ratings on a scale of 1 to 10 for leadership, communication, interpersonal skills, job-related, technical skills, motivation for the next position. Now, how many of you have experienced something like this? You're being assessed based on your skill sets based on a scale of 1 to 10. Now, often people ask me, say, Jedi, what are your thoughts about scaling things on 1 to 10? Some people do it 2 to 11, some people do it 1 to 5. Now, for me, scaling things 1 to 10, it's a quick human, naturalistic kind of way to make things easier, a quantifiable means. So sometimes we ask you, how are you feeling today from a scale of 1 to 10? Now, most people would say, well, I'm feeling about 5, 7. It's a kind of commonality of numeral in our minds, in the human minds, to kind of make sense of how we're feeling. Because, for example, if you ask me, how am I feeling? I might say I'm happy. And I ask you how you're feeling, you say you're happy. So what is the difference between your happiness and my happiness? So the only way to do it is to have some common measure. And often we use the measure as a scale of 1 to 10, 2 to 11, 1 to 5, or percentage scale. Now, one greatest flaw in that scale that I find oftentimes is that if we use that scale, how do we know that my 1 is the same as your 1? How do we know that my 5 is the same as your 5? But the great thing about using the scale as well is that, yes, although my 5 and your 5 might be different, but my 5 is based on my spectrum of happiness, right? So if I say 5 out of 10, for me, that is my spectrum of happiness, 5 out of 10. If you say 5 out of 10 for you, that is your spectrum of 5 out of 10. So the what do we call the denominator? It's your denominator, it's my denominator. So if I do a percentage difference, it will be similar. So we kind of get close to kind of commonality, right? So it's a simple heuristic way for us to get some common understanding of where we are right now. So maybe I might do another video on talking about skills, using quantitative skills. If you'd like to see that video, comment below, say yes, I want to have a video on that. Let me know, and I'll probably do some videos on that as well. Okay, so it says here, your task is to predict their performance evaluations 2 years after they were hired using a scale of 1 to 10. So this is predictive judgment, really interesting, right? So they had a scale there. Monica's leadership was 4, Natalie's was 8, Monica's communication was 6, Natalie's was 10. So most people, when faced with this type of problem, simply eyeball each line and produce a quick judgment, sometimes after mentally computing the average of the scores. If you just did that, you probably concluded that Natalie was a stronger candidate and that difference between her and Monica was 1 to 2 points. So that's a problem with skill, right? So sometimes if I say that, hey, Monica's leadership, it's a 4, Natalie's an 8. So you would think that Natalie is twice as good as Monica, right? So is it judgment or formula? Now, the book goes on to say, the informal approach you took to this problem is known as clinical judgment. You consider the information, perhaps engage in a quick computation, consult your intuition, and come up with a judgment. In fact, clinical judgment is a process that we have described simply as judgment in this book. Now, suppose that you perform the prediction task as a participant in an experiment. Monica and Natalie were drawn from a database of several hundreds of managers who hired some years ago and who received ratings on 5 separate dimensions. You use those ratings to predict managers' success on the jobs, evaluations of their performance in their new roles, and are now available. How closely would these evaluations align with your clinical judgments of potential? Now, this example is loosely based on actual study of performance prediction. If you have been a participant, you will probably not be pleased with its results. Yeah, definitely. Most of us, whenever someone says that we are like this, we tend to not agree because we don't want to be boxed. How can that be true, right? We're not like that, right? So as such, in fact, many people on their score, on their personality score, assessment score, evaluation score, they tend not to describe who they are at this current moment. It's really about perception. This is how I perceive myself. If I do a 360, is that an effective way? Well, my simple answer is not, because if it's a clean, sterile environment, yes, a 360 will work well. But considering the daily hustle and bustle of the organization, there's so much things that they have to do, and there's so much demands on the organization. As such, organizations are faced with a myriad of different things. Will they have the ability to be focused at the moment? Probably not quite, right? So as such, you probably may not get that kind of depth of insights that you're looking really for. So looking at this, right, it says this: doctoral level psychologists employed by an international consulting firm make such predictions achieve a correlation of 0.15 with performance evaluation. In other words, when they rated one candidate as stronger than another, as you did with Monica and Natalie, the probability that their favorite candidate will end up with high performance was 55%. So it's not a very good chance. That means it's not a very good predictor of performance, right? And perhaps you think that accuracy was poor because ratings you were shown were useless for prediction. So we must ask, how much useful predictive information do the candidates' ratings actually contain? Now, of course, a standard statistical method answers this question, that if it yields a 0.32, 60%, far from impressive but substantially higher than what clinical predictions achieve. Now, this technique is called multiple regression, produces a predictive score that is weighted average of the predictors. Okay. So it goes on to say all this, and the use of multiple regression is an example of mechanical prediction. There are many kinds of mechanical prediction, running from simple rules to sophisticated artificial intelligence models, but linear regression models are the most common. And to minimize jargons, we will refer to linear models as simple models, right? So now, what happens is this: that in the study of Natalie and as well as Monica, we see that a set of predictable variables are used to predict a targeted outcome, and human judgments make clinical predictions. A rule uses the same predictors to produce mechanical predictions of the same outcome. So the overall accuracy of clinical and mechanical predictions is they are compared. They are not really far from each other. Now, what does this mean for us today? Now, for one, it's this: too often in organizations, we are so accustomed to employing tools, assessments, and whatnot that we have to kind of make assessment of where our clients are at the moment. But are those tools the most effective? Are those tools the most useful? Are those tools the most helpful to really get us clear about where the person is at this current moment? Well, not quite, because those tools don't really give us a total sense of what's really happening in the person's world. So one of the key things as well, while the tools serve a certain purpose, what must happen is our human connection and interaction with them as well. And that's something that I love about, I love to study about communication, I love to study about leadership, I love to study about teams and how teams thrive, how teams perform. And one of the things that I often say is this: many people think that, it's about doing one leadership style, another leadership style, maybe a situational leadership, blah blah blah, and everybody gets so caught up with this idea, leadership is that elusive thing, when it's not. We are having leadership sessions all the time. In your own individual lives, you are leading yourself. That's self-leadership. You're leading others. That's your team, your peers, and you're leading the community or organizations. That's the larger-than-life leadership. Now, leadership is also about influence, the ability for you to influence others, influence yourself towards a certain outcome and intention. So, what are your thoughts on leadership? Post them down in the comment section below. Share with me your ideas and your thoughts as well. Now, notice, as I'm tasting this as well, I notice one of the key distinctions, that every level, as the temperatures are dropping, the taste gets different. This kind of helped me remember that sometimes in communication process, the temperature of the conversation also matters. And temperature, what I mean by that is state. the ability to manage two states. So for example, if I come into a session, a communication session with you, and I'm really heated, maybe I was kind of like frustrated, I kind of was angry, maybe something happened in my past and I was like, why does this happen? And so what this does for us, it really helps us to kind of dive deeper into the world and to really pause and think, pause and reflect about what is really happening in our lives. And I think that is really, really important. So this part here on today's episode, where I really share about the idea of noise as an interference in our judgment, it's a really, really critical factor. What are some noises that are there in your own decision-making process or your communication process? Post them down in the comment section below and share me your thoughts, because this is what we do at Jedi's Omakase. It's really something really special. Now, before we kind of wrap up today, I'm about done with my coffee. I just want to share with you guys about the taste of this. You know, one thing really interesting, as the temperature drops, the acidity intensifies. You can really taste the subtleties of the notes. And I think too often people are so used with their visual senses, but they're not using their taste senses. So one thing I love to do, I love to bring people for taste, to taste the flute. Sometimes I say taste and see that the Lord is good. Taste is so powerful. Sometimes when we experience a new product, a new service, I ask individuals, I say, what are you tasting there? What are you experiencing there? The taste is so important. Now, so I love to share all those things, and I can't wait for our next episode together, because at Jedi's Omakase, you never know what I might share, because today we talk about noise, how to declutter noise of our life. I think one key principle is this. First, identifying the noise that is that you're naturally attuned to. Maybe that noise could be your own self-doubt, maybe that noise could be your own natural heuristics. And what are those noise in your own mind today? Right? Those are the noise, those are the filters in our lives, and it's important for us to create those distinctions today for ourselves. The better and clearer we are aware of, the easier for us to kind of manage those noise in our days life. So if you enjoy what you're watching here and you want more of Jedi's Omakase episode, do continue to check out our little video vlog on Coaching Changes Lives, and I hope to see you in one of our events really soon. Right? So stay tuned with us and drop me a message if you say, Jedi, I want you to kind of work with me at Jedi@coachingchangeslives.com. And until next time, enjoy a cup of coffee.